Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
After a very long time of speculating on what Project Luminous is, we finally got details on it. We even got a trailer, which was new. It's called the High Republic, which is set 200 years before the events of the prequels. I think a lot of us thought it was going to be 400, but I believe in the video they said it was 200. Not a major gap in time, but, 200 years is 200 years. And this is where the Jedi are considered to be at the height of their power, but it's also a time where the Republic has borders. It's not as expansive as it is in the prequel era, most likely, or even the original trilogy era. And there's areas of the universe that the Jedi haven't explored yet, haven't been to, and so they're kind of like the Texas Rangers, is what they said, of the universe, where they're patrolling their areas and they're exploring different regions. And there's even a set of villains called the Nile, which they explained are kind of like Vikings, and they just kind of take what they want. I prefer the term pirates personally, but it's because I'm a Pirate of the Caribbean fan, and then you also got Hondo, so I guess it's too similar to that. Still, this is easily the boldest thing Lucasfilm has done in terms of storytelling in maybe 20, if not 20 plus years. And the reason I say this is because it's a blank slate. You're actually bringing in new ideas, you're going into a different era, and it's not like the expanded universe that wasn't really ever canon by the movies or anything like that. This is just a new set time period that you kind of have a lot of freedom on what you can do. I know some people are going to be disappointed not having like the Sith involved, but the Jedi versus the Sith story, which I do love the Sith personally, it gets old after a while, having the same story of, oh, the fate of the universe is at stake. I've always said that I've been annoyed with how the Jedi have been portrayed in the films since the prequels and even the sequels, because the prequels make the Jedi look like they're idiots, and the sequels basically said, yeah, they're a bunch of idiots. It's only in the original trilogy that you hear that the Jedi are actually peacekeepers and actually doing good deeds for the universe. This is the perfect time period to explore that. This is the perfect time period to show the true morality of the Jedi and what we as an audience look for in our good guys. And then you have them going against the villains, the Nile, which, it's a simple good versus evil kind of story. And they said that their eureka moment was what scares the Jedi. And I like that. I think that's a good question, and it does make you wonder, well, what does scare the Jedi, other than what Palpatine says of losing their power at this time of the Jedi Order? What does scare them? And I think this is a great idea by Lucasfilm. I think this is a good starting point. What a lot of people are disappointed with, and I also am mildly disappointed with this news, that there's not going to be any High Republic era content that crosses over into the films or into the movies. And the reason they're doing that, in my opinion, is to familiarize the Star Wars fandom with this new era of content, with this new era of the Star Wars timeline. We got to get used to what's going on here. We got to get a feel for it. And I think Lucasfilm, because they start releasing the first book in August of this year, I think they're going to put some stuff out, see how the fans react to certain characters, certain stories, see what works and what doesn't, and then go, okay, maybe we can have a show based off of this character. And maybe if there's a positive reaction, we can have a film set in the High Republic era in the year 2026, when there's a planned film to be released at that time. Right now we know there's a 2022 Star Wars film, but it doesn't seem like they're actually going to go into that era for that film, seeing as it's so new to the Star Wars fan base. I really think this is a good idea, and this is one of those things where, unlike the sequel trilogy, which Lucasfilm was placed in a really unfortunate circumstance of, the second Lucasfilm was bought out by Disney, they're being told, hey, you have 3 years to make a brand new trilogy and have a film coming out every year for 5 years straight. That's a lot of pressure, and that's not a lot of time to get that kind of stuff planned out properly, point by point, and it seems like they're taking their time with this, where they're getting a blank slate in terms of the era they're exploring. They're making it up and saying you can do whatever you really want with this to the authors, and letting the authors kind of, I guess you could have a lot of freedom in a sense like this. I mean, there's limits to what you can do, of course, but they have a lot of creative freedom and say on what the characters are going to be like, what the story has for us, and that will unfold. And we know that it's going to start with this big, great disaster thing that happens in the galaxy. And I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, yet again, it sounds like a Death Star or whatnot, but I highly doubt they're going to repeat history with that, because if they do, oh man, what a rough start. But I really think this is a good idea, because now we have new stories that we've never seen before in the Star Wars universe. Now we have endless potential on what you can do with the Jedi. And another cool idea for me is that there are Sith running around at this time. This is probably during the era of the Rule of Two as well, And maybe, as the years go on by, we actually get to meet the two Sith who are going around, and maybe just get a book about them, or a film about them, or a show, something about what they're doing behind the scenes while the Jedi are at the height of their power. I think that'd be a really cool and interesting idea, because if you look at the prequels, they talk about in The Phantom Menace how the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, or however long it was. They said it was a very long time, that's all I remember. But that's a good idea for a story concept of having the Sith stay in hiding, working on the rule of two and what's going on in their world compared to what's going on with the Jedi. I love this idea. I think this is a great move by Lucasfilm. I'm excited to see what they do with this. I know some people have screenshotted the board on what they were working on and got really upset with the word diversity being up there and not being pro-war, which, first of all, you got to put things into context. If you weren't in the room, you don't really know what they're talking about. Also, the word diversity isn't as bad of a word as people are making it sound to be. You remember in 1980 when Empire Strikes Back, I don't know if any of you have seen Star Wars, but there was a character named Lando who was a black guy and like one of the coolest characters of all time. He was introduced at that time because George Lucas himself, who is a very what would you call it, anthropologist kind of guy. He really likes studying society and how people work. He wanted to put in some diversity into Star Wars. If you guys aren't going to complain about that, and there's no reason to complain about that in the first place, I don't really get why the word diversity is so scary. It seems like the people who are claiming that SJWs overreact to everything are now overreacting to small words like diversity and losing their minds about it and making it seem like it's all a big agenda. The whole not pro-war thing, well, no duh. I mean, I get that the word for Star Wars is Star Wars, but it's mostly about adventure and finding your destiny. It's not about the galaxy and turmoil always going to battle. Yet again, it goes back to, has anyone actually seen Star Wars? Just go back and watch the one from 1977. That literally is Star Wars. So yeah, I don't like the overreaction people have for the negative reactions that people have had so far on this High Republic announcement. It doesn't seem like a big deal to me. It seems like people are just nitpicking to bitch about something that they don't like. I'm fine with everything that's going on so far. I think this is a great idea. A blank slate is what I've wanted. New stories, new characters, and a new era to explore. This is exactly what Star Wars needs. It's a breath of fresh air, and it's the boldest thing Lucasfilm has done in over 20 years at this point. But tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about the High Republic era in Star Wars 200 years before the prequels, and it's set in a time where the Jedi are at the height of their power? Are you excited? Are you not? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you all next time, and may the Force be with you. Always.